Hello and welcome back to the Littlest PetCast. I am your host, James, and today we are going over the episode Sue Syndrome. So, we are at a track meet, which we later learn is the all-city track meet. There is a track race underway, and Blythe is nervous because Sue is at the back of the pack, and she has to win this race because she has won every other event here. Jasper wonders if she has any energy left in her, and is kind of doubtful. But then Sue gets serious and passes everyone else, and Blythe and Youngmee say that Jasper's wrong, and then Sue wins the race, and Jasper says, "I never doubted her for a second," which is nice. Anyway, so then the principal approaches Sue and gives her a medal for setting records on every event at this meet. Sue thanks Principal Morris, and Morris continues that there's going to be a trophy at the school assembly, and he can't wait to hear Sue's acceptance speech. Sue gets nervous, takes off the medal, and says that maybe she's not the right athlete for this. And Blythe, Youngmee, and Jasper are all confused about this. So, later, at the shop, Blythe is talking with Youngmee and Jasper about how none of them could contact Sue. Like, phone calls are being ignored, and so are texts. But they say that, they can't avoid Sue at school, but Jasper says that Sue could totally avoid us at school, because she's like a high-class athlete and stuff. He then falls out of his chair. So then Blythe says that they'll all meet up at school, and they hang up. Before Blythe goes, Mrs. Twombly asks Blythe to take the newest day camper in, and Blythe agrees and gets a peek at them. So in the daycare area, Pepper says that she has a new form of comedy, joke and spell. So she tells a joke, which is, I believe, what did the scrambled egg say to the devil egg? Don't be so hard on yourself, and then mix a smell. Nobody really likes this smell, and they say it smells like rotten eggs. Pepper says that she was going for hard-boiled, so I guess she needs to practice craft. But, it's not bad. I just need to work it out, which, Pepper is always working on a joke, so whatever. So, Blythe brings in the camper and says that Pepper and her might hit it off, and the reason for this being that the new camper, Mitzi, is also a skunk, and she speaks like a southern belle. So, she creates a smell and everyone likes it, with Zoe calling it a literal breath of fresh air, and Pepper gets jealous of the attention and says, yeah, if you're into that stuff. So at school, Blythe, Jasper, and Youngmee are hanging around Sue's locker wondering when she's going to show up. So she shows up asking for access to her locker, wearing a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a mustache. So, right. Is the banning of hats in schools not a universal thing? Because that was always a rule at, the schools I went to, where you couldn't wear a hat in school unless it was, for a special occasion. Even then, I don't quite remember if they allowed us to get away with that. But, whatever. Blythe says they told ya, and Sue says only because we have an English exam. So they ask what's with the getup, and Sue says it's so Principal Morris doesn't recognize her. Jasper says that it's not a good disguise, and takes off the mustache, which kind of, hurts Sue a little bit. She goes, ow, because it was, properly glued on there or whatever, and he puts it on him. And second, he says he'll recognize her when she goes up to give the speech later. Sue says that she can't give the speech today or ever, and runs off, confusing everyone else once again. They might be a bit dense, maybe, but it might not be that obvious from their perspective. It's it's hard to pick up on subtle clues sometimes, but I don't know. It's weird. So, Minka, Zoe, and Penny are following Mitzi's scent and loving it. Mitzi says that she loves making sense for people. So they put in a scent request for a field of flowers, specifically lilacs, orchids, and jasmine. And Mitzi says that she thought this would be hard, but she does it anyway. And the smell helps them envision a fantasy of them being on basically a Sound of Music mountain, so I guess an Alp. But it's very reminiscent of like that opening scene of like the Sound of Music, the general area and their wardrobe, essentially. And they are just enjoying the field of flowers, even though Penny has some trouble climbing. At the beginning, Mitzi says that she's glad you're enjoying it, but she needs a rest. But then the boys come over with a scent request of their own. They want the beach, the salty air, as Russell puts it, a nice veggie dog, Sunil adds, and the sun, Vinny tells her. Russell tells Vinny that the sun doesn't have a smell, but Mitzi says she knows what he means and whips it up. So they also envision a beach. And Sunil is enjoying his veggie dog, which is somewhat weird because they talk about eating meat in the show, so it shouldn't be much of a problem, but it's not all that weird when you remember that Sunil is from India and they tend to be vegetarian. You know, mostly. So, these two people lift up the towel he's on and then, like, pop him up into the air. And he goes very high, and the bird tries to steal his, veggie dog, but, like, he only somewhat succeeds. So, Sunil falls, and Russell is underneath the sand with a, like, very muscular body, but then when Sunil lands on it, it turns into a really flabby body. And Russell's like, Sunil! But, like, Sunil's like, hey, plenty of veggie goodness to go around. They wonder where Vinny is, and he's surfing on an octopus, enjoying the smell of the sun. So back in reality, Mitzi is very happy as well, and Pepper looks over and complains, you don't even tell jokes, and huffs off. Mitzi looks over at her, concerned. And I just want to point out that this time around, watching it, I found a possible metaphor for this. I think this might be like a metaphor for freelance artists. Because, like, creating good sense is an art. And it's like they want them. And, you know what? We're gonna keep it going. But I just want to put that idea in your head for right now. So, at school, Sue is walking around when Jasper grabs her and drags her into a classroom. Sue asks to be let go, but Blythe asks her to tell everyone what's up. Sue agrees and says that she's no good at public speaking. She said she's afraid of it and that she thinks it's called glossophobia. So, Jasper laughs at the word, but Blythe and Youngmee stare him down and asks, how bad could it be? Sue says, really bad. She freezes up and her voice gets into this very high, squeaky voice. Sue says she's going to ask the principal to give the award to someone else. Blythe and Youngmee say that she can't give it up because she has earned it. Blythe says that they don't have a lot of time, but we can get you to a point where you can deliver a great speech. Sue asks if they do that, and they all answer yes. Or, you know, you can just ask not to give a speech and accept the award. Like, very much so. Although maybe the principal's like one of those, nonsense, just get up there. That's not at all how he sounds like, but it's like that idea of like, oh, you just need to get over it or whatever. When you can't, or it's really hard, or whatever. So back at the pet shop, Pepper asks if they want some jokes, and the pets begrudgingly say yes. Pepper asks if they want something fresh. Zoe then wonders if Mitzi can make it fresh, like the first day of spring, and they all walk over to her. Pepper hates being ignored and makes a very rotten smell, which lands on the pets. They ask Mitzi to make a scent to cover it up, and Mitzi says that she'll be happy to oblige, or something along those lines. And she whips up something that everyone likes. Pepper gets sad and walks off. So at lunch, they are preparing Sue to work on her speech. Sue tries it out, and she freezes and gets very high-pitched as the speech goes on. She eventually breaks, so she can't do it, and like a glass shatters with her pitch and runs off. And then Jasper says, well, at least we know she isn't imagining her problems. So, back at the pet shop, there's a lot of back and forth in this episode. Pepper is practicing her jokes on a doll and asks, what's the point? No one wants comedy from a skunk who stinks. Mitzi is concerned, but the rest of the pets come to her saying that they are less happy and want a new smell. She gets surrounded and overwhelmed and makes a scent and casts it away. The pets go over there and love it and asks what it's called. Mitzi says it's Georgia Peach. And I can't. Like, this is too much like a weird, like, art commission metaphor where, like, we're not happy. Give us something new now. We want something new from you because you're great. And we want it. It's, and it's only going to get worse as the episode goes on. So Pepper says, I call it showy and a disgrace to skunks. And this has to mean that skunks have been bred to create different smells, right? Like, this has to mean, like, when? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It's weird. This whole thing, like, breeding generations in this show is weird because, I don't know if the lifetime of animals is the same in the show as it is in reality. It's odd. And also just remember, like, treat artists with respect. So in chemistry, Blythe comes to Sue with some advice she'd gotten earlier from her dad. So her dad was telling her to picture Mona in a moose costume, and that worked for her eventually. So try imagining everyone as something silly, like clowns. So Sue tries this, but says she's terrified of clowns. So try something else? Like this joke might not be as worthless as it is if they tried something else afterwards. And clowns just stuck. It's really, really weird. I don't know. It's just that's the end of that scene. And back at the pet shop, the rest of the pets are in a state of blitz due to Mitzi's smell. And they also say that they can tell how happy you are for doing this. I can tell that you're very happy working for us for free, taking our every demand for exposure. Oh dear. So, Pepper gets a whiff and says that she can't stand it anymore. So Mitzi appears before her, and then Pepper is shocked. Mitzi then tells Pepper that as a skunk, she's a bit jealous. Pepper is confused about what she has to be jealous about, and then the rest of the pets demand Mitzi make more smells. Mitzi points to the rest of the pets and says, that... And she and Pepper walk off for a bit. They break into song, and Mitzi does so first, and Pepper's like, oh, you can sing too. So, like, she's a bit sarcastic at first, but, I mean, over the course of the song, like, Pepper gains more sympathy, because, like, Mitzi says that she hasn't really been able to produce a bad scent as a skunk, and that, like, her problem is that she can make these good things and everyone is just so demanding. And Pepper's like, that ain't right. So, like, the song itself is, like, kind of country pop-ish, like more Dolly Parton, not Taylor Swift, but I don't know if that's, like, country or country pop, but it feels Dolly Parton nonetheless. So, and then Pepper's verse in the song, she's lamenting her bad smell, but says that it still makes her her, and that, like, at least that's real, even though it's unpleasant. And Mitzi really wishes she could do that. Overall, I'd say it's a pretty good song. So they come back out to the public, and everyone wants Mitzi, but Pepper says that she should just, like, tell them or something, but Mitzi doesn't seem to have the courage to do that. So in the library, in the school library, Blythe hands Sue a recording of Blythe reading Sue's speech. Blythe explains that Sue can just follow the cadence and help Sue by imitating Blythe, because Blythe doesn't care if anyone hears her. And I like this bit because it kind of plays on Rustle Up Some Fun, where, like, Sue kind of pretended to be Blythe for a little bit, especially in matters of confidence. So maybe they could tap back into that for a little bit, or plan that at least. And Sue says she'll give it a try, and they both hope it works. So at the pet shop, once again, the rest of the pets ask if Mitzi can make it smell like colors, which is just kind of synesthesia. I have a very mild case of it where, like, when I smell chlorine, I feel like I'm smelling like seafoam green or neon green, but, like, it feels like like the color makes me see. No, the smell makes me see the color. Something like that. I can also smell rain, but I don't think that counts. So Mitzi is obviously exhausted, but says that she'll try. But Pepper makes a big stink to drown out Mitzi's small attempt and says that they make her sick. She points out that Mitzi is exhausted and to give her a break. And it's, like, very much one-to-one, like, don't overexert your artists. I love this metaphor. It is very, very apt in this. The rest of the pets leave, and Mitzi thanks Pepper. Pepper asks if she really hasn't made a bad smell, like, even when she was mildly upset. Mitzi says she hasn't really, but thinks that if she could, requests would go down, which is the equivalent of raising your prices a little bit. So Pepper then whispers a plan, and then back at school, the assembly is ready, and Blythe, Youngmee, and Jasper are in the hallway prepping Sue, and Sue says that she feels ready. She listened to the recording several times and gives a sample, and she begins but breaks down immediately and runs off once again before the assembly begins. So Jasper says it's too bad she's not as good at speaking as she is at sports. This gives Blythe an idea, and she goes to get Sue while she tells Youngmee and Jasper to get in there. So, at the pet shop, we are very going back and forth here. Pepper and Mitzi are still pep talking, and Pepper reminds her to feel. Like, okay, this is a thing. Like, the whole song is about smelling how you feel, and how scent is based on emotion. So that's a weird thing, I guess. It's kind of like the Frozen power, essentially, or maybe a Green Lantern power, something like that. I don't know. I was too focused on the whole, this is a metaphor for commissioning artists. It really is. It's a really good metaphor for that. Like, but like the whole emotion thing is kind of weird too, I guess. Especially because, like, in real life, skunks only have one smell, and it's bad. But I guess, like, this... Okay, so this has to, like, have, like, changed fundamentally how skunks worked since the beginning of time. So, is this some weird butterfly effect thing where, like, skunks can produce more than one scent, and so now they're pets, or can be viable as pets? Because, I mean, hey, having, like, a nasty odor can protect you from, predators, especially some with very keen senses of smell. And if you're good as a skunk, and, like, eventually we get to a place where Al Gore is president because of this weird skunk butterfly effect. Like, one little decision can, like, change the course of history forever. So, that, I guess, it's weird. So the rest of the pets come back and ask her to do colors again. Mitzi says she'll do it, but Pepper asks, "Is that what you really want?" Mitzi says no, and she says she's plumb tuckered out and she needs a break. She then makes a scent that takes over the room, but this time it's foul. Mitzi says that she is happy because she's doing something for herself for once. So, artists, treat yourselves, raise your prices, demand more out of people if you think you're skilled enough. That's great. Do it. I love this. So, the assembly continues at the school, and Youngmee and Jasper wonder what Blythe plans on doing. So Blythe finds Sue, and she asks her to give her speech. Sue says she can't, but Blythe asks her when she feels the most confident. Sue answers, "Easy, when I'm running." Blythe says that that's what she's going to do. Sue likes it and tries to run away, but Blythe grabs her leg and says that she's going to give that speech and asks Sue to follow her. So at the pet shop, the pets apologize for abusing Mitzi like that. They said they had no idea that it was upsetting her. And Mitzi says that she didn't know it was upsetting her either, and now that she knows, she feels great and unleashes an unpleasant smell. Like, yeah, that's another thing. As much as, like, artists, like, people who make too many requests of artists, like, are jerkish to some extent, artists also need to set their own boundaries, which is, limiting commissions or, jacking the price. And if they don't know how to do that, they might want to learn from people who have been doing it, a la Pepper. Because Pepper can produce good smells, and, she can produce bad smells. And it's like, she knows what she's doing in this field, where Mitzi doesn't. And, like, Mitzi, it's great at it, and she's great at like making something good, but she wasn't that great at like self-care, So Pepper congratulates Mitzi for broadening her scent repertoire, and Mitzi is very happy and ushers in a very good scent, which Pepper says smells like a rose garden. Pepper adds her own peppermint twist to the scent, and everyone loves it immensely. Russell says that if she ever comes back, they promise not to abuse her, and then Mitzi says she'll make sure of that, aiming her tail at them, and they get nervous, but then they all laugh, because that is a great joke and also a great, like, taking a stand for yourself moment. Like, it's like that one thing where, like, they draw a stick figure if someone asks to have a commission done for exposure. This is hilarious to me, and I love it. So, the assembly is in full swing, and Principal Morris introduces Sue. It takes a bit for Sue and Blythe to enter, which makes Jasper and Youngmee nervous, but they do enter, and Sue is on a treadmill that is on a pushcart being pushed by Blythe. So Sue makes her speech and thanks everyone, like her family, whoever's at the track meet, her track teammates, and thanks Youngmee, Jasper, and especially Blythe for helping her make this speech. She says that with friends like these, how could a girl lose? And everyone cheers. And like Principal Morris kind of like runs in place and then announces the trophy, and then is like tired afterward, which is like, I find that hilarious, and it's very much so hilarious. Like, he's so darn extra in that moment. So anyway, back at the pet shop, the pets are telling Blythe what happened with Mitzi, and Blythe says that's great, and Pepper asks how her day went. Blythe explains that she also helped a friend, and nothing feels as good. Minka says that nothing smells as good either, which Zoe agrees with. Pepper then whips up a rainbow scent, which is supposed to allude to the making scent of colors, and that ends the episode. And before I get into the other big thing, I just want to say that this being a perfect metaphor, or a near perfect metaphor for, commissioning artists and like having artists do stuff for exposure is just great. It's so funny and hilarious, and I love it. Like, I just realized it upon this viewing, but it makes a lot of sense. And while I like this episode, and I like the ending, and it's a very good episode, like, both parts are very well written and well defined, we have come to another installment of Lost Potential. Mainly, I'm kind of chaining this off of Why Can't We Be Friends with this? Because, like, if Blythe wasn't going to tell Sue that she can speak to animals in that episode, and there's no real room to do that in that episode without expanding it, she should have told Sue in this episode. And it's really weird because this is the first time, I think, that, like, I believe they should have cut some bits while not eliminating a story that this episode has. Like, I've said, like, there are some episodes where, like, the B plot or the A plot, like, doesn't matter or, like, is uninteresting or whatever. And then there are some episodes that I'm like, this is weird, that I'm like almost like wanting to get rid of it entirely. But this is the first time where like they could have just cut a few things and then added like this moment in. Like, Why Can't We Be Friends like is a great episode, and like maybe it should have been longer. I don't remember if that's one of the complaints I had. But that's just a complaint in general with the series sometimes. So I might think that even though I haven't said it, where like if you wanted to get more in, you'd have to like stretch it out. Whereas if you wanted to get more in, there are like easily parts you could just take out. Like mainly like even though like it might be realistic that Blythe, Jasper, and Youngmee can't pick up on Sue's obvious fear of public speaking. Like maybe you could have limited that to like, maybe you could have made it like so that they admit it one scene earlier, just to get this in, and you could get rid of the thing with the clowns entirely, because like that didn't go anywhere. Honestly, rest of the episode is great, like really solid episode, but like I don't know, it's just, it kind of feels like with Blythe telling Youngmee and the whole like stuff that comes from that, like both what we've seen and what we haven't seen, like it feels like they should have done a little more, and like this is like maybe the perfect opportunity to tell Sue. And like even though the like clown thing speaks to like a thing that like maybe they should do more of, which is referencing old episodes, with like the whole advice coming from like picturing Mona in a clown suit, moose costume, I mean, and then it turned into clowns for no good reason. Still, like, I mean, they had the whole subtle reference with the Rustle Up Some Fun thing, and I don't know, it's just weird. So I did write a mini script as to like how it could have ended if like Blythe were to tell Sue at this point, where like, I mean, there might be enough room for it if you cut out some of the more unnecessary or lengthy bits, but here we go. So like Blythe says like nothing feels as good, and then you hear like a knock, or Mrs. T say, Blythe, Sue's here for you, or something. And Blythe goes, and that's her now. Remember, just like I told you, get into position. Sue walks in and says, hi Blythe, thanks for helping me out there today. So why'd you want to meet here instead of the yogurt place? Blythe, well, I just know that for you to do that, you needed to trust me. Sue, of course I trust you, Blythe. What's this about? Blythe, well, I don't want this trust to be unfounded. Looks back at the pets. They all give her a look that says, you can do this. So I feel like I need to tell you something. And then they could either cut to black there and just imply that Blythe told Sue, or you could get a more full scene where like Sue's in shock but is like, oh cool, whoa, and it's like stuff taken aback for a bit, but then it's like, yeah, this is cool, this is great, like don't think for a second like that this makes you weird or unwelcome because you're my friend and stuff. And then the pets could celebrate, and during the celebration, like Pepper could unleash the rainbow scent, which would smell like colors, and the episode would end there. And like this episode's good. Do not get me wrong. It is a great episode. Like fantastic. Like I don't even know why I thought that this episode wasn't that great when I went into it. I mean, I don't know if I thought that. I just didn't really watch it too much. Like more than once. It's wasn't one of my favorites, but like now it is. And like it's great. I just kind of wish they did more. Like again, this show sometimes feels like it wants to take steps to go places, especially in the last two seasons. And like some in the second season, maybe a bit in the first. Like the first is just kind of established. It's weird. Like the second two seasons 3 and 4, I give less of a pass to than seasons 1 and 2. Because if we're going off of its sister show, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, the first 2 seasons also kind of, like, they may have been taking steps, but, like, season 3 onward felt like they were taking more steps, bigger steps in general. And, like, so maybe, like, that Littlest Pet Shop needed, like, that much breathing room as well. But it also doesn't take enough steps, which might fall into, like, the Phineas and Ferb side a bit. Where, like, I don't know, by the end of Phineas and Ferb, I was kind of wondering when Candace would mostly give up. But, I mean, she never does. But it's like, I really want to see Candace, like, in other situations. And we do. It just ties back into the whole thing. And, like, in Phineas and Ferb's defense, like, that's kind of what the show is in a way. It feels like it's based on the repetition, essentially. It's based on the idea that, like, you're getting, like, the same things with a different flavor in every episode. And there are, like, small changes that they do. And those changes, like, mean the world to me. Like, I love, like, when Candace and Jeremy actually start dating and they're actually a couple. And that's for most of the show. It's stuff like that. Like, Phineas and Ferb just played to its strengths, even if it kind of felt a bit long in the tooth after a while. Like, and My Little Pony just, like, kind of changed and grew as it continued. Littlest Pet Shop kind of wants to do both, but I don't know. Like, there are, like, 2 different styles of show, and, like, again, mixing it up just doesn't work for its benefit. There are ways that you could. It's just it doesn't know how to. It's basically just that. So that is it for this episode of the Littlest PetCast. And while I went on that lost potential thing for a while, but be sure to leave a comment and review on Shout Engine, on Apple Podcasts, on the Google Play Store, and wherever else RSS feeds go when they are running away from a trophy they well earned. And be sure to tune in next time for the episode In the Loop. I shall see you then.